An unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. Or if you're a fan of the 80s or 90s, Socrates. So, wow. I mean, that's totally reflection right there. And this is why, like, the philosophers of pretty much the Hellenistic and Greek traditions were a prelude to the church fathers because they deal with a lot of reflection, a lot of criticism, and a lot of examination when it comes to breaking things down and being in a studious and astute, well, examination of things. So that's what he's saying. An unexamined life, like what would be the point of not examining things and not reflecting on things rather than just like going through the motions and just being, well, like listless, and just existing without any substance to it. What would be the point of like even living? What would be worth it at all? Would it be worth it? Would it not be worth it? It all depends on, I guess, how you lean. And once again, this brings in the nihilist and transcendental experience. Like there's something living beyond yourself, and it, there's something beyond you, and it's worth living for. So that adds to a lot of substance, a lot of structure, and a lot of goodness to life because you can reflect on the good things, you can reflect on the bad things, certainly, and you can figure out what you want in life and go from there. The examining of things and reflecting on things is definitely going to teach you lessons. It's definitely going to teach you things that are worth it and that does make life worth living. So it helps, and this is not to bash, for your degrees or anything, because I myself am a graduate, but nowadays it's perpetualizing itself into something that is just it's not become worth it anymore because they're finding different ways to go about getting useful jobs, apprenticeships, and making that education something that's worth it, like becoming an HVAC technician or something to that respect. Instead of going to a 4-year college, you're getting it done in 2 years, learning a trade, and then possibly in the future you could go to college. So it's one of those things where you're examining things at the time and you're taking action and then you're moving on. So it's one of those things where, speaking to that, sometimes I reflect back on that and I was like, well, if I did it that way, you wouldn't just the student debt crisis wouldn't be so terrible. Or like if we had a military program or some kind of civil service program where we would have to go to learn military tactics and things like that and be in some kind of disciplined school for 2 years before we go off to a university, that would help. And that would count as probably military service in a sense. And we would be more disciplined and way, some people just have it in them, some people don't. I, for one, did not. It took me a little bit to go on and be better at college. So it takes some people a maturation process, and some others it doesn't. So it's one of those things where you have to find that balance and what you want to do with it. And examining it is totally worth it. It's totally fine. that's something that I feel is very natural and very good for the soul. So that is making it worth living. Very simple statement, but very good words to live by. And once again, this reflects on itself. And I could see how this would lead in to something like a quote from a church father, or any Eastern philosophers like this kind of thing too. So there it is.